Do you want me to take that? Just for me. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this gathering and to bless all of you and all of your families and all of your loved ones, to protect you and your families and your loved ones, our families and loved ones. Allahumma ameen. We're very happy to be together at this end of year gathering. We apologize for the delayed start. Inshallah, we're going to go through kind of similar to what we did last year. So just to give you a heads up in the beginning, we're going to start with Shaykh Fouad will lead us in the Majlis dhikr. Some of you are not accustomed to Thursday night, but this is usually what we start Thursday night with. If you would like to say it to yourself, you can do that. If you'd like to say it out loud to yourself, you can do that as well. And Shaykh Fouad will lead it. And then after that, I'll share some words. We'll share some words. We'll have some songs from Brother Bara. We'll hear from Shaykha Muslema on the report for the year. And then I think we're going to have some closing songs from Diwan. And after that, we'll have dinner, inshallah. So that's the lay of the land. Let's start with the dhikr. That way, everything can be good and nice, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله 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 أستغفر الله. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل 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 لا إله إلا الله الملك الحق المبين 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 أنت الهادي أنت الحق ليس الهادي إلا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. ثم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أنت الهادي أنت الحق ليس الهادي إلا الله. 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 أنت الهادي أنت الحق ليس الهادي إلا الله 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 اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
Alhamdulillah. We're going to switch their seats that way because it's getting full if people want to sit on the floor, they'll feel more comfortable. Best questions. Okay. How is the temperature in here? Is it still okay? If it starts to warm up, you have to let us know somehow. Start going like this or something. Because then we can turn on the AC. I get a sticker? Sure. This is perfect. Alhamdulillah. All right, Bismillah. So, like I said, after the dhikr, we're going to just share some reflections on the year, have some songs, and then we'll have dinner, inshallah. So, I guess kind of what I want to start with is that this idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of everything. Allah is the source of everything. There was Allah and there was nothing else. And Allah determined to create everything that came into existence. And He created the light of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He created the tablet and the pen. He created the heavens and the earth subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He created and sent the messengers alayhim salatu wasalam all throughout history. So if we were to think about what is the source, like what is the water, so to speak, you know? And this metaphor plays itself out a lot in Islamic thought, in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this idea of the water. The Sharia actually originally has a meaning of the water, the watering hole that the animals go to get their sustenance. And it brings the people together and it gives them what they need and so on. And so when we think about what we have in existence, we have the original source of all things, of course, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately. And then He determines that He'll send the messengers one after the next, one after the next, one after the next, to the point that the messengers are like this great river. You know? And I think that it's important actually for people to try to visit great rivers. When you feel and you see a great river, you know what you've seen. And it reminds me of one of the poets. He said about the Nile. He said, "Sharibtu min ma'in nili shaykhin anhuri." that I drank from the water of the Nile, which is the Shaykh of the rivers. It's the Shaykh of the rivers. And the Nile runs and it goes, and eventually it has its tributaries. It creates this delta, right? Originally there's the desert, and only along the Nile is where there's life. And eventually the Nile starts to break, and everywhere where it breaks into that delta, there's life all around that delta. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determined that He would send these prophets one after the next, one after the next, one after the next. And they would be this river of guidance for all of humanity. And of course, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes, he's the last of the prophets. But the last of the prophets also gives birth to all of the people from the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who would be the heirs to the prophets. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that the true scholars, the ones who have the knowledge of this religion, they have that water, and they've done something with that water such that it can give sustenance and it can nourishment to everybody else. And it brings civilization and it brings life. And so the Prophet ﷺ is that river. And one of the things that we wanted to do when we started this organization, subhanAllah, our non-profit status was November 2016. So it's been surprisingly 6 years now, subhanAllah. And we wanted to make sure first and foremost, whatever we do, and we try to remind ourselves always as people who are in a position, the responsibility to give something to you all, is to make sure that we try to stay as close to that river as possible. And when we know, when you're distant from the river, things get a little bit different. But when you're close to the river, life is very abundant. There's so much there. And so we always wanted to have this connection. And one of the interesting things about the connection is that if you think about, again, the river, when the river breaks out into the delta, you have all of these different branches, right? And every little branch has its own little town and has its own little thing that's going on. But if you were to just go upstream a little bit, they're all in the same place, actually. And so some of the reflections that I want to share about this year are kind of tied to them. And they're not actually as much about all of the people in this room, although it is about all of the people in this room. And that's what I want, hopefully, to get across. So the first idea is one of the streams, which is everybody who's here and everybody who's been here. Alhamdulillah, over the course of the last several years, initially it was very small, but starting from 2019, there was regular attendance. MashaAllah, some of you have been regular since 2018, 2019. And this year, especially since we started again in person in the middle of last year, we have a great blessing, which is that there are people that come and they come regularly. There's a problem that we have as a people and as a community and as a world, actually, that our concerns now are very much centered around virality. Who can have the biggest numbers? And everything is about the biggest numbers and the next big thing and the next big project and so on and so forth. But when we think about what really matters is that people are regular, is that people are consistent. And one of the beautiful things that you see about this religion is that when someone comes to this religion and they try to understand this religion, they try to practice this religion, and they're honest with themselves and they're critical with themselves and they hold themselves to the fire. And they say, I want to be better. I want to be what Allah made me to be. I want to be a true reflection of the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'm going to get this knowledge and I'm going to hold myself accountable and I'm going to do what I need to do. And I'm going to really work on this. What you see is over time, and everyone's time is different. Some people it happens very quickly. Some people it takes a little bit more steps. Some people like us it takes 20 years before you start to see oh, your patience increased a little bit. But it's it takes time, right? But if you keep drinking from the water, you grow. If you keep drinking from the water, you grow. And so one of the beautiful things I think that we have in this community is that every single week, week after week, people are here. Every single week, week after week, Sunday night has, now 70, 80, 90 people. Every single week, week after week, Tafsir has its people that come. And imagine, subhanAllah, I've talked to Shaykh and Muslema about this before. Some people, they wonder, say in terms of marketing and stuff, when you teach the same thing, People don't, marketing doesn't work the same. But she said, no, I want to teach the Quran, and I'm going to keep teaching the Quran. So since we started, for the last 3 years, she's been teaching the Quran every single week. How have you finished teaching now?
We're like, I don't know. We're towards the end, we started just,
So you're in the third juz now. Allahu Akbar. In 3 years, mashallah. But it's like, we're going to take the Quran every single week, and we're going to stay there, Shaykh Fouad, mashallah, his classes every single week, you see more and more and more people coming. Right? And this is, we have to know, like, this is the natural progression of things. The natural progression of things is not, you have this thing, and then everyone comes, and it's just like, it's this huge thing all off the bat. The natural progression of things, like they say about the river, actually, that what is the river other than a bunch of drops of water that came together? The drops come, the drops come, the drops come, the drops come, the river comes after a while, and the river gets a little bit bigger, the river gets a little bit bigger. Next thing you know, you're like, SubhanAllah, look at this is incredible. Right? So one of the first stream, so to speak, is all of you. And SubhanAllah, when we were coming over here, I was thinking to myself, like, what do? You do an end of the year thing basically to say Alhamdulillah. And there's no greater blessing in life than the people that Allah allows us to keep company with. That Allah gives us the opportunity to be with good people, to be with people that are going to help us and guide us, and people are going to support us. And that is the greatest gift that we have in our lives. And people that we can be with them 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, we're with them. People that you can see them, and some people in this room, I remember them when they were in high school. And you saw them go to junior college, or you saw them go to university, you saw them get jobs, you saw them get married. Like, that's a huge blessing to have that as a community. So this is the first piece, right? The second piece, when I'm reflecting on this year, and it may not be as immediately relevant for some of the people in this room, but I want you to understand also that, like, part of going upstream is that you're part of all those other streams too, even if you don't realize you are, right? So now there's like a branch there, and there's a branch there, there's a branch there. You don't realize it because you're over here. But if you go up a little bit, you're like, oh, SubhanAllah, these things are all together. Like, people are, and that's an amazing thing, So the second thing that actually stands out to me from this year was a trip that some of us were on, myself, Shaykh Fouad, Shaykh Muslema, when we went to Colombia. And what was beautiful about this trip was that we went to Colombia, in Medellin, and it was as if we were in the Majlis in Medellin. Like, the people who were running the project there were the people who were with us in the beginning of the Majlis. And like, some of the people who were there, they actually live here, but they're from there. Some of the people who are from here, they moved back there. Some of the people, it was like, it's hard to explain, right? The feeling of it. But the feeling of it was like, SubhanAllah, we're in this completely different place, but it's the same stream. And the same stream, just as it will give life to people here, it will give life to people there, inshallah. And that was a beautiful trip. Shaykh Fouad has his poncho. This is a poncho. You get some. It's a poncho turned shawl. So, so that was the second one. The third one that I'll mention, which I didn't go on, but some of the people in this room, they just came back from it. They went to Egypt. Sharifa Maryam, Shaykh and Shaykha, the other Shaykh, and other people, they just came back from Egypt. And from the pictures, I can see it's a similar experience, right? And what's really amazing to me about that is that, for example, like, there's the first text that we taught in the Majlis, back when we were in Shahid Uncle's house, Allah bless him and his family. When we were in his house, the first text that we taught on Thursday night, and the first text that we taught in like a weekend, like a day intensive type thing, were texts that were written by Imam al-Dartir, Abu Barakat al-Dartir, radiallahu ta'ala. And I was, in the morning, then I get these pictures from them, that they're at the Masjid of Imam al-Dartir. And they've gone in there, said salam to him, made dua for him, made dua for themselves, for the community, everything else. So everything comes full circle. At the same time, I was going to a classroom that I was, the 7th grade classroom. We had just actually finished the same text with the Shaykh Fouad's translation. The first text we did in the Majlis, we just finished it in the 7th grade class. And I showed them they were taking the test that day. Showed them like, here's, you're going to take the test today, but here's the Imam al-Dartiya, this is where his masjid is, this is where he's buried, we talked to them about that. So everything is all connected. Everything is all connected because everything goes back to the same source. And the same source is that all of them are taking from the ocean of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of them are taking big handfuls, some of them are taking drops from the dew, but everything goes back to the ocean of the Prophet ﷺ. I'll close on this point just out of like a reminder, something that I heard on the way over here actually, and it's connected. It's hard to explain how it's connected, but it is, Imam al-Dartir, the main inheritor of Imam al-Dartir, you can say in our time, was Shaykh Ahmed Taha Rayyan, Allah yarhamah. When we mention these people, mercy descends. So Shaykh Ahmed Taha Rayyan, Allah yarhamah, he was the great inheritor of Imam al-Dartir. When they went to the masjid of Imam al-Dartir, you see the chair that Shaykh Rayyan used to sit in all the time. Right? When we were, so the story that Shaykh Rayyan was telling, I was listening to a recording, he was telling a story of Shaykh al-Azhar Salim al-Bishri, radiallahu anhu. And one of the big things that we are trying to do is that we understand, again, like part of understanding that there's a stream here, but there's a river there. And there is not like the Middle East or something. There is the sense that we are here as a Muslim community in America. We're doing what we're doing. We're here in Southern California. We have our challenges and our opportunities and everything else. But this is we're part of it. We're part of people all across the world who say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. They worship one God. They follow the way of the Prophet. They cheer for Morocco. And the World Cup. It's all the same ummah. Right? So, Shaykh al-Azhar Salim al-Bishri, they said about him that every single week on Friday, he would go to visit Zawiyat al-Malikiyya. Zawiyat al-Malikiyya is this place in Cairo where some of the students of Imam Malik are buried. So imagine, like, that's a lot of years, right? Shaykh Salim al-Bishri, maybe like 100 years ago. Students of Imam Malik are 1,000, 1,200 years ago, right? So he would go every Friday to this masjid where they're buried, and he would say salam to them, make dua, sit down, make dhikr, do worship, stuff like that, right? Then the week before he passed away, the Friday before he passed away, he went there, and it says he went there and he said salam to them, and he was wearing this clothes probably, because this is the clothes of the people of Al-Azhar. So he says that he took off his outer garment, and he took off his imamah, and he laid down in the masjid, because he knows he's at the end of his life, right? He laid down in the masjid, he took a nap. And he woke up, and he said when he was going to take this nap, he made dua, he said, oh Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said that the person is with the one whom they love. Bear witness, Allah, that I love these people. They're the imams of the madhab. They're the people that I follow. This is the way that we're on. We're on the way of the people, our ancestors. Right? It's an important idea. We're on the way of our ancestors. He laid down, he took a nap, he woke up, he put his clothes back on, he went out. Next week on the Friday is when he dies. Every Friday he used to go visit. Friday before he dies, he goes and does this. Next Friday is when he dies. Right before he dies, he tells them, when I die, take my body at the janazah and take me to that masjid and ask the people who are the caretakers of that place if it's possible for me to be buried there. And if so, then bury me there. And if not, then take me wherever you want. I don't really care after that. After that, it doesn't matter. So he passed away, subhanAllah. On the next Friday, they took him there and they allowed him to be buried there. The reason I'm saying this is because, look, this is 1,000 years between them. It's 1,000 years. Like this, the stream has run for 1,000 years. And it's the same stream. And the connection is still there. And it's very, very important that we understand that we cannot cut ourselves off from what we have. We can face whatever we have to face here. We can do whatever we have to do here. We can try to be, whatever we need to be in order to do this religion in this place that we do this religion. But this is Allah's religion. This is the religion of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is the way of our ancestors, and it's far greater than us. It's far greater than us. It's far bigger than us. It's far bigger than like a particular opinion or a particular position or they said this or they did that or whatever. It's far bigger than that. This is the religion of the prophets. It's the religion of the prophets. It's the way that Allah wanted people to be in earth. And so when we it brings it for me, it's like, so what are we doing here actually? And what are we doing here? We come, we learn, we do it together, we worship Allah, we praise Allah, we praise the Prophet ﷺ. And all we're trying to do, people are like, well, what's your thing? I don't, grandiose missions and stuff, alhamdulillah, it's good. But in the end of the day, what is it? What is the actual grandness of what we're trying to do? We're just trying to make sure that we're not too far from that river, that the source is always connected, that we can always go upstream, and that the Prophet ﷺ will always be there as part of our lives. And we know that when we sit here in this place and we say, Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulullah, that he responds with salam. And that's the same thing for everyone all over the world. And not just today, but for all of the generations we came before. And this is a blessing. This is a blessing. It's that simple, and it's that not simple. Right? Like that really is it. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to give us the opportunity to come together. If we have the opportunity to be with all of you, and to be with Shaykh Fouad, and to be with so many other people, this is it. There's nothing in life like this. And if you taste it, you tasted it. If you didn't taste it, inshallah, you taste it. But there's nothing in life like this. The nicest clothes and the most successful job and the beautiful house and the car, there's nothing like it. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be with one another always, and to be in His remembrance always. Allahumma salli wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. Inshallah, we'll hear from Shaykh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم يا نور يا فتاح نور قلوبنا بمحبتك وافتح لنا أبواب حكمتك وانشر علينا خزائن رحمتك إنك على كل شيء قدير. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to the organizers and the people who day in and day out are constantly behind the scenes making sure that all of this is something that we can actually take part in and benefit from. And without them, really, there is no way that any of this happens. So, and you know who you are, call their names a lot, and I just want to continue to express my gratitude. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this world is but a kind of play and things that are not really of real value or merit. And the next world is where real life is, if they only knew. And it's interesting because, I know many people in this room probably watched the game this morning. I watched the game this morning. And I've been watching the tournament, generally speaking, through, from the first day till today. And it's interesting because many people around the world are looking at that moment as a kind of, aha moment, or a finally, Messi got it. After all that work and after everything that he's been through and all these things, he's finally arrived there. And you look at the people that are in the stadium. They were saying that some people actually from Argentina had to sell all of their belongings in order to get there. And they sold their belongings to be there to witness this moment. I mean, think about it for a second. It's a big deal. And what are they seeing ultimately? They're seeing what in their mind is a manifestation of what corresponds to reality for them. Like this man who has put in so much work and effort and has gone through these trials and tribulations in his yearning to be the greatest of all time. And now here he is in this moment where the entirety of the world is looking at him, and he's arrived there. And he's there. And he got it. He achieved it. And as someone who grew up playing this game, like a lot, I can tell you that it brought out the little kid in me to see it. And what's really interesting is that it also brought back the memories of recognizing how all of that, even when you achieve it, is still kind of insufficient. And it just is. Because even those of us who really, really wanted to see this moment, and the moment finally came and it's here, now he's the GOAT and the whole thing. And then you turn your TV off and it's kind of over, right? And you're not really sure at this point, what has it really changed in your life? Like, what has it done for you? And this was one of the things that for me really irked me in terms of the way that I was walking through the world, generally speaking, as a young child, is that I felt like everything in this world came to an end. Everything that I loved and was passionate about and tried really, really hard to excel in, if I did or didn't, it just felt like at a certain point in time, it kind of went away. Like it gave me a certain type of gratification, and at the end, it went away. And what's interesting is that one of the theological imperatives that we have actually show us that that is done on purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually creates the world in order to let you down, in order that you go back to Him. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He's with the brokenhearted. And that's a really beautiful reflection to think about, but it's also extremely important theologically speaking, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed it in that way. He designed it in such a way that the world constantly lets you down in order to show you that that's not where you should be putting in your commitments. That's not where ultimately you should be striving to try and find real success. The real success is in the next life. And glad tidings to those who find that life in this life. And that's ultimately what Shaykh Jamaal is talking about. That in order for us to bring about that type of vision, it not only takes one individual who, can give classes on a Wednesday or a Tuesday or whatever, and, we constantly go through that, but a community that comes together with that intention in mind, recognizing that all of us are actually in this together, striving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we recognize that that's actually where real solace comes. That's actually where real success is. And the Majlis and this effort that all of us are partaking in ultimately is us trying to bring forward an institution that helps us realize that mission for ourselves and our families and everyone around us. Like, my son is the one that's going around giving me stickers right now. And that's a big deal for me. It's a big deal because I want him to have a place like this when that game is over, that he knows that this is actually where life is. This is actually where I come to find that part of my life that brings that success. And it's not to say that we dismiss or belittle what's happening outside of it. No, it's fine. But that we put it in its proper place. And putting it in its proper place ultimately is the way in which this tradition, oftentimes some of the scholars will call it the wisdom tradition, brings about an understanding of these realities. Is that simply being an individual who knows how to put things in their proper place means that you're walking through life in a way that is ultimately rendered towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One that is drawing you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything that you do. And the journeys that we've been on, alhamdulillah, going with the Majlis crew, myself and Shaykh Muslema and others, Shaykh Jamaal, to all these different locations, ultimately what it's shown is that our community is not simply just this, Irvine, Southern California community. We have our thing, but it's really amazing to see how our thing is connected to a global thing that's happening around the world right now. And there is a kind of revivalism that's happening, by the way. And it's very apparent to anyone who's been traveling and really looking at what's going on. And alhamdulillah, if you're a part of that group of individuals who can simply just say that I was with that group who went through that revival during that time period. Alhamdulillah. In the same way that we constantly look at those from a Ansar tradition who we think to ourselves, what it would have been like to simply just be with them, to simply have sat with them and glean some of the light that came off of them. And alhamdulillah, we have people here who I really believe to be inheritors of this tradition. And we don't want to make claims for anybody, but there is ultimately something to be said about people who are there for you when, real life happens to you. And Shaykh Jamaal and Shaykh Muslema are truly two of those people in my life, and I've seen it in other people's lives. And ultimately, we all are learning in that environment to be those types of people, who are there for others when it's really needed. And alhamdulillah for that, for myself, for my family, for your family. And this is ultimately what the Majlis is trying to bring about. And alhamdulillah, I really do believe that it's an institution who is realizing that vision, not only for us here, but for the entirety of the Southern California Muslim community and the entire Southern California community in many ways. I've had many people come into the class that we hold on Wednesdays who are not Muslims. And what's really amazing is that they come in and they sit down and they get up afterwards and they say, this is the first time I've been to a Muslim space. And, one individual said something that really stuck with me. He said, and I feel like this is my space. Like, I feel like everything that you all are talking about and everything that's being said here and everything that's being done, I understand it. I get it. And that's really profound. It's a really profound thing to have an institution like that, because for so long we have been looking for institutions who are able to synthesize those realities. One of the things, and I'll end with this, one of the things that I remember Dr. Umar Abdullah saying when he first came into Islam. For those of you who know, he read the story of Malcolm X, as many of us have done, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And at the end of the book, he actually asked himself, what have I learned from this? And what he comes to realize, as he says, is that he said, it was the first time that I understood that Allah and God are the same thing. Allah and God are the same thing. What is he saying here? Ultimately, what he's saying here is that I recognize that this religion, from a primordial place, from a place of just like insaniya, like as a human being, I know it. And it is something that is speaking directly to me. And he found that through the autobiography of Malcolm X, as many have. I really believe that places like the Majlis and what it is that we're really after here is an instantiation of that very same idea, where people come here and are able to synthesize their realities out there with what this religion truly is and how it truly speaks to the human being at a fundamental level. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to give this institution tawfiq bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu kullu khair. Yeah, I think you can. Maybe they can share.
All right, brother. You ready? This is our brother Baran. It's well known to the community, mashallah. It's a patent lawyer, and just many other talents. It's a really nice hat, mashallah. You want to do it? Okay. Hold on. She was a better.
I just feel like I rather not have too much of an introduction. So, something that people don't know about Barak that I don't even know if he remembered until I remembered was that he actually stayed at my husband and his wife. But he's like he's our local mention, he's our local mention, whatever. From the earliest time when we started our very first program, we came together. I was thinking who's gonna come and bring us together and we can do songs like the princess and then collective chicken. Like who do I ask? And so on the left, like I was a very short message and he came with like drums and he came with other people and I remember doing that cool on the left. But since then, since 2017, he's kind of blessed us with his songs.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله عدد كمال الله وكما يليق بكماله. اللهم صل If you know the words, please join. If you don't know the words, please join.
Yes.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على بدر الدجى محمد وعلى آله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نور الهدى محمد وعلى آله عدد كمال الله وكما يليق بكماله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على أشرفنا محمد يليق بك صل وسلم وبارك على أسعد آله عدد كماله وكما يليق بكماله. الله صل وسلم وبارك على أكملنا محمد وعلى آله عدد كمال الله وكما يليق بكماله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. رباه بذكرك أعرف ذاتي رباه بذكرك أعرف ذاتي حين أنادي يا مولاي هب لي هدايا هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا النور يداعب أجفاني في الليل فأعزف ألحاني النور يداعب أجفاني في الليل فأعزف ألحاني وأرتل آي القرآن وأرتل آي القرآن وأطير إلى دنيا الأنس هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا دنيا الإيمان أيا حلما في وصفك أضنيت القلم دنيا الإيمان أيا حلما في وصفك أضنيت القلم أحياك سعيدا مبتسما أحياك سعيدا مبتسما في قلبي وضاء النفس هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا رباه نداء أرسله العزة يحمله نداء أرسله وجناح العزة يحمله فمتى للأرض سيوصله فمتى للأرض سيوصله حتى تغدو كالفردوس هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا رباه بذكرك أعرف ذاتي رباه بذكرك أعرف ذاتي حين أنادي يا مولاي هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا هب لي هدايا أنت رجايا اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم إن قيل زرتم بما رجعتم إن قيل زرتم بما رجعتم يا أكرم الخلق ما نقول قولوا رجعنا بكل خير واجتمع الفرع والأصول اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم لولاك يا زينة الوجود لولاك يا زينة الوجود ما طاب عيشي ولا وجودي ولا ترنمت في صلاتي ولا ركوعي ولا سجودي اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم أيا ليالي الرضا علينا أيا ليالي الرضا علينا عودي ليخضر منك عودي عودي علينا بكل خير بالمصطفى طيب الجدود اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم ثم الصلاة على نبينا ثم الصلاة على نبينا وآله الركع السجود ثم الصلاة على نبينا وآله الركع السجود اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله صلى الله عليه. We'll close with go to that chapter 10, please. If you have that with you.
I can pull it up. I think I can pull it up faster. There you go. أخبارك يا سيدي عن 104.
مولاي صل وسلم
دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير
كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا أكرم الخلق ما لي من ألوذ به سواك عند حلول الحادث العالمي مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم ولن يضيق رسول الله جاهك بي إذا الكريم تجلى باسم منتقم فإن من جودك الدنيا وضرتها ومن علومك علم اللوح والقلم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا نفس لا تقنطي من زلة العظمات إن الكبائر في الغفران كالأمل لعل رحمة ربي حين يقسمها تأتي على حسب العصيان في القسم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا ربي واجعل رجائي غير منعكس لديك واجعل حسابي غير منخرم والطف بعبدك في الدارين إن له صبرا متى تدعوه الأهوال ينهزم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم وأذن للسحب صلاة منك دائمة على النبي بمنهل ومنسجم ما رنحت عذبت الباني ريح صبا وأطرب العيس حاد العيس بالنغم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي الكرم والآل والصحب ثم التابعين فهم أهل التقى والنقى والحلم والكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك بك خير الخلق كلهم يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم واغفر لنا لكل مسلم بما يتلوه في المسجد الأقصى في الحرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم بجاه من بيته في طيبة حرام واسمه قسم من أعظم القسم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم وهذه بردة المختار قد ختمت والحمد لله في بدء وفي خاتم قد أتت 60 مع 100 فرج بها كربلاء فرج بها كربلاء كربي فرج بها كربلاء كربي مولاي صل وسلم بك خير مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله.
On this. Shaykh bir minute. Now we're gonna hear some Shaykh on the stage. Yeah. So.
I did. Okay.
You want to sit here?
Musical chairs tonight. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. It's hard to talk after Shaykh Fouad spoke and after my husband spoke. Alhamdulillah. And also, I'm so also very grateful to Barat because I know you're a little under the weather, but you blessed us with your presence and your song as usual. And, alhamdulillah, it's always a good gathering as Barat is with us. Alhamdulillah, so thank you again. We're going to look through, inshallah, our 2022 annual report. And I'm not going to go into it in detail. If anyone's interested in all the fine details, the report is currently on our website. And you can just go to the website and read it directly for yourself. I did want to summarize a couple of things. One is that this year, I think 3 major milestones, alhamdulillah, we were blessed with. Since the close of our offices in Orange, when the pandemic started, and then we went virtual, and then we were doing some of our programs out of New Horizon, but we didn't have our own space. We didn't have our own leased space. This year in 2022, we were not only able to lease space again for the first time since the pandemic, but we were able to lease 2. One here in Irvine, alhamdulillah, and then we started a second chapter this year of the Majlis in San Diego. And that's a really big milestone for us. This year has been, alhamdulillah, one of growth and transition. And a third, I think, major milestone for us as an organization is that we were finally able to hire a full-time admin, an assistant director, Marcus, who we kind of throw everything at. And so I don't know if he's in the room right now, but if there's anyone that's been drowning and is like, because no one knows how it's going to happen when you first start out of pandemic. What is it going to look like when we gather again, when we start our programs again? What are the kinds of things that we can do that we couldn't do before? Alhamdulillah, he was someone who came in and became like the jack of all trades, moved us out of our old, we had everything in storage. Right, so moving everything out of storage into one office, and then moving the rest of it out of storage into our second office, from like the labor to like the flyers to like the emails to like the setup of the room to putting up with me to all the little things, mashallah. Marcus and also Esnawi, who's our hospitality also coordinator, and you might have seen him taking pictures, but all of our volunteers, they really are the backbone of the organization. And so when we say like we started at a second office in San Diego, or we were able to start this here in Irvine, alhamdulillah, a lot of it is because of the support of the community, but also especially because of the amazing dedication of the volunteers. And I want to say that I myself feel like we fell short in supporting them, and they have not fallen short in supporting us. So again, I seek your forgiveness, and I also thank you. I want to thank every one of you in the room, and you know who you are, who've made every Sunday program, happen. Something that's just remarkable when I think about it is our old Sunday programs in Orange, maybe 60 to 80 people would gather. But it's when you think about doing that now here at New Horizon and doing it outside, it's event level preparation every single week. It's not a space that's already yours. You just go in and you do the program. It's set up and tear down at like a special event every single Sunday with dinner. And so that's an amazing effort on behalf of the community, alhamdulillah. Another thing that happened as we were coming out of the pandemic is we noticed that through our office hours, a lot of people needed help, like just because of being in isolation, they needed to be with other people who were going through similar life phases and struggles as they were, and they wanted to feel reconnected to other people like them. And so this was the first time that in 2022, we started doing different kinds of support circles. So like a motherhood support circle, a fatherhood support circle. We did MSA night to try to bring MSA students together and try to support them. A young professionals potluck that, alhamdulillah, the numbers for that have been growing, but just trying to create support networks for different phases of life that help people feel connected again to community after being in so much isolation, and also connecting on the same struggles. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, these were, alhamdulillah, very well attended. Some of them are still well attended, but I think it was part of sort of getting back into person programming, something that we wanted to focus on. We tried a middle school summer circle, and we tried a high school summer circle. And I'll be very honest, it was not, it was, alhamdulillah, it was what it was. I'll say it was what it was. We're gonna try again on that one. That one, we tried to put it together, and it was summertime, and I don't know we have to still debrief about why that didn't go maybe the way we had hoped it would go. But we tried it. And I think that's another thing that we did this year is we would get feedback from the community. We want something for the youth. So we're like, okay, let's do it. And then we do it. We're like, okay, that didn't work. Let's do a mommy and me. And then we do it. And then maybe the person leading it ends up becoming a mother again. So we have to close it down. So things like that would happen throughout the year. But one of the things that we would always tell our community, and we continue to tell our community, is that if we have the capacity to do what's being suggested, and it's really a need and a service to the community, we're going to try to do it. So sometimes an idea is posed 3 months ago, and we finally have the ability, the volunteers, the capacity to try out that idea, and then it happens. So it doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but when we have the capacity to provide the service, we try our best to offer it, inshallah. There's one of the slides on the report talks about the different classes that were taught. I just want to make a note here that at the Majlis, I think one of the things that we're really, really blessed with is the being able to take the tradition, the classical tradition, and have it taught in a way that's contextualized for our circumstances here in America. Some of the texts that are being taught here are not taught anywhere else. They're really not. It's not that people will read the books or that they will buy the books, but being able to actually go through a text and understand it and have the ability to, grow with the text and grow with the class. That's one of the purposes of sort of why we gather, is to learn and grow together. And I don't know, like when I think about different kinds of educational tracks, there's not very many educational tracks that I know of that people can have access to where they can go through some of the things that we're able to have that I'll go through. And I think it's one of the things we don't realize in Southern California, especially. Like we really need to appreciate this. I feel like two gifts just fell from the sky and landed on the Majlis. One of them is Chaplain Sulli, who's here in the audience, who's a trained chaplain when we needed one. And she's, mashallah, is we would have had her speak today as well, but she said today she wanted to just be an attendee of the Majlis, and we're like, okay, I know what that's like. So yeah, you get to do that today. Alhamdulillah. We're gonna just bother your husband instead. But the other gift really that fell from the skies, Shaykh Fouad, and I'm gonna embarrass him just for a few seconds, is that there's not a whole lot of people who's really specialized in theology, like at that level in America. Maybe you might be able to count them on two hands, right? And somehow, Southern California, we got one of them. And so he's able to teach authoritatively certain things that cannot be taught otherwise without someone who has the authority to teach it. So his Tuesday class, I think, has outgrown the classroom that we have. I think it's around 60 people now, which, if, for people who are, again, where do you find a master's level class or, gathering where you can learn Aqidah in a very in-depth way, and someone who's going to bridge the gap between, what people are going through in this country, the different ideologies, and the genealogies of thought that exist here and what informs our education, and then connect that back to what we believe as Muslims. So that's it. I mean, these are things that I'm particularly very grateful for, because I think they're very unique blessings that we have in Southern California, alhamdulillah. And we've been blessed to see both of the efforts from Shaykh Fouad's class, as well as the other classes that are there, to be places where people can gather and connect back to that tradition while it addresses where we're at. Now, one of the things, in terms of reflections, I'll just say, I just came back from Egypt. A group of us from the Majlis went. Hadir, one of our board members, she was with me. I didn't let her sleep on the flight there. And Sayyid Shireen was with us. And also, interestingly, the Wattar brothers who are doing the project in Colombia, they were also there. So it's kind of a reunion of sorts. And Brother Siraj Mawjood, who's also one of our board members, and his family and his mother, alhamdulillah, they were there as well. And so one of the things that I was reflecting on with my husband was that when we had first gone to go study abroad in Egypt, I would pass by a lot of these places, these sacred places, and that are so historical, and I didn't know how to connect, let's say the challenges that I as an American Muslim woman was facing when I go back to California, and the fact that I'm standing next to an 1,000-year-old institution like Al-Azhar, the Masjid Al-Azhar. Like, what does this mean? How do I benefit from this place? And how do I connect it all? And so I didn't have a way to do it then. And I think at that time, I would just try to look at all of these different historical figures and occurrences and things that have happened, and trying to think about, what can I learn from their mistakes? What can I benefit from what they did right? But it was very much like this was in the past. This was a long time ago, and we're in a different place and context now. There's a sense of I can tell these things are really important. They're really important. I'm standing next to something and I feel this is really important. I don't know how to connect it. I don't know how to connect this experience of standing next to, of being next to Masjid Al-Azhar, and connect this to the reality that I go back to. And this time when I went, alhamdulillah, with the Majlis and with our crew and with our, these are some of our backbone community members of the Majlis, it finally kind of came together. It really came together. And I was like, what I didn't have then that I have now is that this is a living tradition. This is alive. This is not like this was back then and this is now. Well, this is alive right now. And these places that I'm at, they're alive right now. And what we're doing in Southern California is alive and connected to what's happening, or to these people and these figures. We just read the poem of Imam al-Busiri, the Burda, right? We sung it together. And on the trip, we were able to visit the grave of Imam al-Busiri in Alexandria. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that, I don't remember anyone, at least publicly in Southern California, being able to say the name Imam al-Busiri or the Burda out loud before we started the Majlis. If you would have said Imam al-Busiri out loud, you would have been labeled. If you would have said the Burda out loud, you would have been labeled. The fact that we're sitting around singing, that would have been seen as like a problematic thing to do. And so, visiting his grave, visiting his grave was like, it was a blessing in that I could say that, alhamdulillah, in Southern California, we use your song to remember the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We hold it up. We're able to hold it up, and we're able to be connected back to this tradition without shame, without fear, without any of the weird stuff that may have existed maybe many years ago in Southern California. And so I think that's a big deal, to be able to come back and be like, my tradition is alive. I'm able to connect to it, not just privately, but publicly, together in a group with other people who understand it properly. We're understanding it together, and then now we're able to renew it in our time. We're able to renew it for our children. We're able to renew it, inshallah, for future generations. Did I grow up in my masjid with people being able to sing the song or the poem of Imam al-Busiri or do salawat on Thursday nights? No, I did not grow up that way. And I don't know how many masajid in Southern California would even allow that. It's kind of a gathering to take place. But I'm really grateful because at the Majlis, we are able to have that gathering, alhamdulillah, take place. And also starting one chapter allows that to happen, especially with the education about why these things are very valid and orthodox, and why they're actually a renewal of the tradition, not a betrayal of the tradition. And then seeing that other projects can now emerge and also feel confident to stand up as well, that may want to do similar things. So I'm just going to mention a couple of things before I go to the closing. The report talks about, how many people were able, alhamdulillah, to feed through the food distributions, and people who watch the content online. We were able to do 2 major retreats this year. This is the first time we had a ladies retreat, and that was held in San Diego at a resort. And by popular demand, I believe it has to come back, inshallah. That's what what the women were saying was, don't just do this now and not do it again. You need to do it again. So we're going to do it again, inshallah. The Big Bear retreat also, that brought around 180 attendees. The pastoral care sessions, all of these things, alhamdulillah, that are milestones for the work that we're doing now in 2 cities. We were able to bring speakers from around the world. And one of the things I wanted to emphasize is when we are flying out an international speaker, the number one thing we're looking at is qualification. So they may not be viral, they may not be popular, but we're looking at who is the best possible person that we can think of to invite to address this particular topic that's, very nuanced. And we were blessed to have both, as an example, for something that's a very sensitive topic in our community, which is recovering from community-based trauma. We were able to bring out Dr. Maryam Shaybani, as well as Sayyid Rihab Ramadan, to help support our community through this, through a discussion and through education on this topic. We're also able to do something that hasn't been done that I know of, at least not through the Majlis yet, which was a maqra on the day of Eid with Shaykh Ahmed Saad Al-Azhari. And technology poses problems, but it also poses opportunities. Like he was able to transmit, for example, a hadith that in order for this hadith to be transmitted to someone who then takes an ijazah, it's musalsal, which means that there's something that it's musalsal bi yawm al-Eid or musalsal bi yawm al-Arafah. So he's in a different time zone. He's in England, but we're able to actually have a maqra where he offers this to us on that day, and we receive it with ijazah on that day, as do people around the world receive it on that day. This would have never happened before, like 100 years ago, maybe not even 50 years ago. If someone's going to do something that's musalsal, that's like a condition that it has to be transmitted on a particular day, it's going to have to be in a physical gathering, everyone in the same room, in the same place. But alhamdulillah, this was something that, a different sort of aspect of reconnecting to the tradition that alhamdulillah we were blessed with this year. These are some images of the San Diego office, and that's the children sitting on the blue tarp. On the other side is the main hall or the sanctuary where the class happens on Sunday mornings. And finally, the last part. Okay. So in 2020, when we did the end of the year report, I remember we looked at all the costs and we looked at what the expenditures were, and we literally came down to the dollar, like I think to the last, not dollar, like within $10. Like we broke even within $10 that year. This year, we're short. We have a $20,000 deficit for 2022. And we would like, inshallah, to go into the year of 2023 with that deficit taken care of. I know that donations that are made by the end of the year, we have tax breaks for that. So if anyone would like to help us out with covering this deficit, there's actually, if you go to the Launch Good, or you can go directly to the website, you can make a donation there, but we also have a live Launch Good campaign where people can make donations. What are we looking at for 2023? We are hoping not only to cover our deficit, which is $20,000 for the year of 2022, but also we want to go into 2023 with some strength, with and the ability to actually support some of the things that we've now grown into. And ideally in 2023, we want to hire another part-time admin, because it's just, alhamdulillah, it's a lot of work, I think, for just one person to handle by themselves, Marcus. And so we need to actually hire more staff. The demand for the work is there, the community is there. We just need we need like at least another part-time position to help support the work that we're already doing, and to be able to continue it and to grow it. In 2023, we hope to do, inshallah, our intention is to do, continue to do more retreats, because this is something where we've gotten the most amount of positive community feedback. Do more local retreats that we can attend. The other thing that we hope to introduce to our community in 2023 is international trips. So I know we did Umrah in 2019 together, and we hope to do that again in 2023. But we also want to do some other trips, take our community now around the world and see how what we're doing at the Majlis is connected to your historical tradition, and connect us all back to our roots, and know that this river is still flowing. And going back really does have a profound psychological effect of feeling connected and feeling confident, feeling very blessed to be part of what we're a part of. So with that said, and this is just, if anyone would like to donate, they can go directly to our website. They can go also to our Launch Good page, and they can help us enter, inshallah, the year with, and Marcus is right over here. Since you could also just scan the code there. to make a donation. Is that? Yeah. He's going to leave one there. And if anyone also would like to join our volunteer team, you can talk to Marcus as well. One reflection I had this year was that for 2023 as a board, as a, and as a, I want to say like, from the instructors of the Majlis, we would like to offer more support to our volunteers, inshallah, throughout the year. And so that's going to be something that, inshallah, we hope to see flourish in 2023, both for the Irvine community as well as in San Diego. So, barakallahu fikum. That's the sum of my presentation. So, okay.
Thank you. Just going to close with dua, and then we're going to have dinner, inshallah. Zawar was unable to make it, so we're just going to close, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, we praise you, Ya Allah. We turn towards you, Ya Allah. We ask your praise and your blessings and your mercy to be descended upon our Prophet and his family and his followers. We ask you, Allah, for knowledge that benefits us by the ability to act upon it. We ask you, Allah, to give food to those who are hungry, to give shelter to those who are shelterless, to give victory to those who are oppressed, to give aid to those who are suffering. We ask you, Allah, to help us to always be connected to you and to your religion and to the people of your religion. We ask you, Allah, to help us and to be with us and to aid us. We ask you, Allah, to make us connected to you such that whatever difficulties and challenges we face, they are made easy. We ask you, Allah, to make us people of your remembrance, to make us people who seek your forgiveness, to make us people who seek you in everything that we do. Allah, we ask you to protect us, protect our families, protect our loved ones. We ask you, Allah, to bring the life of Iman into our hearts. We ask you, Allah, to bring the life of Iman into our hearts, to make us have lives and experiences that are meaningful and beautiful. Help us to know what it means to know you and know what it means to know your Prophet. Ameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma laka alhamdu hatta tarda wa laka alhamdu idha raditu bil hamdi wa rida wa laka alhamdu alladhi huwa khayrun mimma yaqulu alladhi taqul wa laka alhamdu ala kulli hal. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى ونستغفرك بسترك الجميل ونستغفرك بسترك الجميل. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والعافية الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. اللهم ربنا لا تفتح علينا عبادك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم يا الله يا الله يا الله بجاه أسمائنا وصفاتنا وأنبيائنا ورسلنا الصالحين من عبادنا اقضي حوائجنا وعلى مرضاتنا نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين. اللهم إنا الحق وزدنا اتباعه وإليك عظيم اجتنابه. اللهم ارزقنا حسن الخاتمة. اللهم ارزقنا حسن الخاتمة. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم يا عالم السر من هذا الذنب السر عنا ونغفر واعف عنا وكن لنا حيث كنا. اللهم انقذ قلوبنا من بيننا من الغفلة عنك. اللهم انقذ قلوبنا من بيننا من الغفلة عنك. اللهم اجعلك آخر كلامنا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله عدد كمال الله وكمال سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. بارك فيكم. Enjoy your dinner and we'll all be here. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم.